So Manchester United suffered their 8th Premier League defeat of the season against Wolves. A year ago when the team was struggling under Ten Hag, many would have hoped that a year down the line things would be better, the team would be in a better position, but clearly that's not the case. And to be honest with you, this is not surprising. The mess the club finds itself in, this has been coming for some time. And there's no one particular factor that we can put our finger on and say because of A, B, or C that the club finds itself in this particular mess. Rather, it's cumulative effect of the terrible decisions that have been made in the past 2.5 years. I see a section of the fan base blaming Amorim for the shit show that's been going on, jumping on Amorim for the situation we find ourselves in. But before you do that, before you jump onto Amorim, I just want you all to jog your memories back a little bit, rewind in your heads the past 2.5 years and the decisions that have been made during this time at the club. And then probably you can, after taking into account all of this, you can reach a conclusion whether it's Amorim who is responsible for this situation or it's the past mistakes of the club which have led to this position. And do yourself a favor and make a fair assessment of that. And then probably you'll realize that it's Amorim who has been essentially left in this position to deal with this mess of the past. When we talk about the mistakes of the past, people like to bring up Ten Hag, saying that bringing in Ten Hag was a mistake. Well, hindsight is a beautiful thing, isn't it? But people need to realize that it was not bringing in Ten Hag which was a mistake, but it was to allow him to deviate from the very reason he was recruited for. That is to move away from the football and the philosophy which his Ajax team displayed. And that was a mistake which has left us with a squad which is not aligned with any particular style of football, or perhaps the style of football which we want to play now under Amorim. The next big mistake was to allow him a free hand regarding player recruitment, to allow him to recruit players who probably lack the physicality or the pace and power to compete in the Premier League, or sign players who probably aren't ready yet, or sign players who suffer from recurring injury issues. For example, Mason Mount. After the Wolves game, I see people raving about Matthias Cunha, saying how he's the perfect player for that left number 10 position in our team. True, but do realize that Wolves signed Matthias Cunha in January 2023 for about £44 million, while we signed Mason Mount in the summer of 2023 for around £55 million. That says a lot about our transfer policy. A Mason Mount who had already started exhibiting injury concerns in his last season at Chelsea. And regardless of that, we went on and signed him. Another issue is that in the past 2.5 years, no efforts were put into directed squad building which would align with or be complemented to a particular playing style. Rather, half-assed signings were made. You do not sign a Casemiro to fill in the profile of Frenkie de Jong. And there were many other such absurd decisions which have been made in the past 2.5 years. But after the FA Cup final, the club had the opportunity to start afresh. Instead, they chose to stick with Ten Hag. Now here is where I attribute some of the blame to Ineos. They could have bought an Amorim in the summer, which would have allowed him more time to implement his playing style to a greater degree, and also have an input in the player recruitment regarding players who suit his system. But that's not been the case, obviously. And coming in mid-season into a new club, given the circumstances, it was always going to be difficult for Amorim. I see people saying why Amorim does not change the system or adapt his playing style. This is the same thing Ten Hag was criticized for. Now people want Amorim to do it. It's better to have a coach who sticks to his philosophy than one who is willing to throw it away at the first sign of difficulty. And yes, there are issues in his system in this moment of time, like the wing backs not offering enough threat, always looking to come inside instead of going on the outside and delivering a cross, or Højlund not doing particularly well at hold-up play, or the team not looking or not trying to find Højlund when he's making those clever runs. And this happened a lot, by the way, in the Wolves game. But the point is that these are personnel-related issues, and issues because of lack of time on the training ground. These are just the symptoms, while the disease has been the lack of direction and planning from the club, which Ineos are perhaps trying to address now. Yes, they got the Ten Hag decision wrong, but when a new ownership comes in, there are always going to be teething issues. Just look at Chelsea, for example. They faced difficulty in their first 2 seasons under the new ownership, but now they're doing well. The biggest positive for United fans right now, and perhaps the only positive, is that we have got a coach who knows what he wants to do, and he's willing to stick to it despite having to face a turbulent period. Think of that as your port in this present storm.